Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Valero community meeting. Today is August 11th, 2020, and yeah, we got a bunch of things that we're want to go through with you all. So let me share my screen, and there we go. So for status updates, first off, we have Carlisia today.
Hello, everybody. I was on PTO last week. That means vacation, sort of. And there are a lot of PRs, so trying to get through those. And after that, back to the server status request migration to kubebuilder. Excuse me. I had it all done, and then I hit a little bit of a snag with it, which was I needed to put a watch on that event. So it goes, make a request, fetches the plugins or whatever information needs to be processed on the server. And then I get back that information. And doing that with kubebuilder, I mean, there is no, because what I'm doing that on the client side with the command line. So in other words, outside of a context of a controller, because if you're doing a controller, there is a straightforward way to do that, to watch events for either the corresponding object or even other objects. But doing that outside was not straightforward at all. So there's no documentation. I was poking around and asking people, and finally Andy gave me a hand right before I went on PTO. He just said, the best. He said, well, if you do it this way, there's this, you're going to have this problem. So the best way, and that's Andy Goldstein. So the best way to do it is create like a bare bone controller, just so you can add that watch to that resource. So I started doing it, but I haven't actually finished doing that and testing it, but I trust that Andy knows, and I can always ask him for more help if I need. So that's where I am with that. So that's the only thing that is missing. I have the tests going. I just need to be able to do that event and fetch the stuff from the server. That's it for me.
Sounds good. Any questions, comments for Carlisia?
Carlisia, I would say if you would like, you can create a draft PR, even if it's not finished, and we can jump in and help too.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. I mean, after I do the PR reviews, I'll give this a stab and I'll open a draft PR.
Cool.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Carlisia. Next up, we have Ashish.
So for me, I was on community support last week, so I got to a bunch of triaging GitHub issues and looking at PRs open. I don't think I have a PR that I haven't looked at. If there is one, feel free to ping me on it. Other than that, I have a couple of PRs open for the restore hooks. One implementing the API types, one fixing the API types, which is a pretty small change. So if you want to look at that, that would be great. And then the other PR that I have is for implementing the init container restore hooks. So I know Andrew Reed has been basing his work out of this PR, so it would be great to get this one merged so that he can work off of master, kind of gives him a more stable ground to work on. Other than that, I have a few other PRs open. One to fix passing the default volumes to restic flag from the schedules to the backup. I realized I don't have a link out to that. I'm going to add that as soon as I finish here. And then I have, then when we restructured the build setup that we have, we kind of broke the entry point for the restic-restore helper Docker image. So I have a PR to fix that. And then I also added a validation or a CRD job, CRD verification job in GitHub Actions. This is basically to test or ensure that our CRDs can be created on various Kubernetes versions. So the motivation for that was with the restore hooks API types, there is a bug which prevents the CRDs from being created in Kubernetes 1.18. And the intention here with these GitHub actions is to catch such errors before PRs get merged. So that's another thing that I got to take care of. And other than that, I also have a few PRs on the CSI repo. One is fixing our GitHub actions, fixing CI to push like the images with the latest tag on it. And then there's another bug fix that was slotted in for 1.5, which is like better handling of restores when the VolumeSnapshot API objects already exists, but the associated workloads got deleted. So I have a PR out to fix that as well. So that's pretty much been what I did last week. This week I'm hoping to get all of the PRs that I have open merged and also do some more PR reviews.
Awesome. Any questions, comments for Ashish? So one thing that me and Ashish talked about yesterday is also starting up Valero office hours. So as part of the community support portion. So we'll be looking at that and setting up a schedule and agenda and so forth within the next coming weeks here. And we'll let you all know when we have the first one scheduled. All right, next up we have Nolan.
So this week I am on community support. I've also started diving in on the delete item action implementation, but I have that first PR in draft until we get the design doc merged. I think I'm just waiting on one more approval. That first PR is just putting in the kind of the plumbing to have delete item actions. That PR does not actually invoke any plugins or anything yet. That'll be a follow-up PR. I've also been looking at some of our GitHub actions for improving some of our just overall process. So I've been toying around with a GitHub action that automatically assigns reviewers on PRs. But I've been kind of bouncing off of the GitHub permissions with pull requests. So when you have pull requests from forks, that does not give you permissions to actually assign reviewers or assignees on the PRs. So I've been going back and forth with the GitHub API there. And I just got a review today letting me know my proposed fix there wasn't going to work. So still trying to figure out the best way to kind of automate these things. Late last week was taken up by some scheduling exercises within VMware. And I think Stephanie's going to hit on that. And also of general interest is I'm aiming to have 1.5 beta out by next Friday, August 21st at the latest. Ideally, we would have it out this week, but we'll see how things go. So yeah, if we can get restore item actions in there, that would be awesome. But just to be clear with our priorities, we're looking to get the delete item actions in there But restore item actions, we may not be able to get them all in depending on what things are ready. So we're just going to be upfront with that. So
but we can always cut a patch release after.
Yep, we can do a follow up and get the remaining features in, or the remaining restore item action work that needs to go in afterwards. So that's more or less what I've got.
Nolan, on the GitHub actions for PR reviewers, would it be just straightforward to assign all of us, like all the maintainers for PR reviews straight away instead of, I don't know if there is some, like, if you're like choosing some people to be assigned or.
No, it's not. The GitHub action, it can, like it can do a lot more stuff than what I'm having it do, but I'm just having it assign everyone.
Okay. That's fair.
It's really just so we don't have to go in and click every time.
Yeah.
It's so whenever a PR is opened, especially if we use this pull request target, then we should be able to add an assignee and add reviewers. And I have more to say about the reviewer topic in the discussions. So yeah, any questions? Any other questions?
All right. Thank you, Nolan. Next up, we have Stephanie.
Hey, everyone. I'm a little under the weather today, so I'm just staying off camera, but I did want to provide a few updates. So we're aiming to have, as Nolan mentioned, we're getting headed into the 1.5 beta release. To kind of coincide with that, we also want to do some of the 1.6 release planning following the 1.5 beta release towards the end of August. Everyone can refer to our roadmap. The link is provided here in the HackMD again for reference for all of the items that are planned for December 2020, and that corresponds to what we're planning to include in the 1.6 release. Subject to change slightly if we have to make a few accommodations for the new release plan. We have also recently published a Valero security policy. That is planning to be merged now, but we do have a security policy in place for Valero. So that document describes the process that we'd like for Valero maintainers and contributors to follow, how you can work through security issues with the Valero team, and how we will publish any vulnerabilities that have been identified on the Valero code base. So we're planning on getting that merged this week. And if anyone has any comments, please feel free to include those as well. And that's it from my end.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, the security policy here is vital for the project as a whole. We want to make sure that we have a proper policy in place, even though we haven't had any CVEs or anything like that reported yet. We want to make sure that we have this process in place if such a thing happens. So you all will get notified when things happen. There is one part in here that's really important to point out. We do have a new Valero distributors mailing list. This one is described down here, but it is essentially for people who package or utilize Valero in a product fashion. So if you are a distributor of Valero, please let us know and join the distributors mailing list. You can see the membership criteria here. We want to limit this, of course, to just the focused individuals on this mailing list here. So please let us know if you want to be included there, and we'll go through the membership criteria with you all.
We should also probably announce the distributors mailing list on the Google Groups.
Yes, once this is merged, we'll make an announcement out to the rest of the mailing list, talking about the security policy and pointing this piece out. Absolutely. The reason for this distributors list, I think I missed that, is so you get advance notice. So you are aware of these issues, if future issues, if they come up before we announce it to the public. Right. Any questions, comments on the security policy here, or anything else that Stephanie talked about? All right. Then we are going into discussion topics.
Yeah, so I wanted to introduce Bridget. So in the next couple weeks, we will be having a new team member. So Bridget, if you want to go ahead and say hello.
Hi, everyone. So yes, I'm Bridget. I'm currently a contributor on the Solid Boy project, but over, as Dylan said, over the next few weeks, I'm going to be getting up to speed on Valero and looking forward to getting more involved in the project.
Fantastic. Super happy to have you, Bridget.
I'm super happy to be here.
Does anyone have any questions for Bridget? Nothing yet. All right. Next up, we have the standing topic from Carlisia.
Yes, so every week we're trying to let everybody know that we have a lot of our code that is external. So it could be utilized as library by anyone. However, there are only a few packages that we intentionally want to expose. And we listed them here. If you are using Valero codes from any package that's not listed here, please let us know. So we know we are intentionally moving things into an internal directory structure. So we hide what we don't want to be used as libraries. So if you are using code that don't belong to one of these packages, please let us know. We don't want to break your codes. So we'll work with you.
Thank you, Carlisia. Any questions, comments? All right, then we are moving into this PR here.
So this is a PR that is upstream, that's related to upstream VolumeSnapshot APIs. This is describing adding validation hooks to the VolumeSnapshot API objects. I took a quick look at it, and it doesn't seem to violate our assumptions or expectations with the CSI plugin that we have for Velero, but I would like to have more eyes on it to catch anything that I might have missed, just so that we don't end up with a hair on fire work item to take care of things. So I just wanted to let everyone know.
Yeah, I read the summary, but I haven't read it in depth. My understanding of it is that this is more or less fixing up the validation that exists in the CSI controllers as they are.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate summary?
Fixing validation and also making certain fields immutable and also having opinions on what can be, in what scenarios do you have to create a new object and not use an existing one.
Got it.
So I read the validations that was proposed in this KEP, and I didn't find them violating our assumptions. So I just ignored the rest of the document about how they plan to roll this out and enforce it. And in versions of Kubernetes, should we expect this validation?
Yeah, I think we're more concerned about the rules rather than the implementation.
Yep.
And I know we ran into some of the immutable fields already. So
yeah,
we can double check this just to make sure we're following the constraints. Because as long as we play by those, then we should be okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I can add this to my list. Let's double check.
The other thing that I forgot to mention during for the CRD validation GitHub jobs that I added was currently I have this setup running against 116.9, 117, and 118.4. But if there are other versions we should be running this against, I'm happy to update that. The goal is like this will be like a moving window of 3 versions or more maybe that we constantly keep check ourselves against. Yep,
so are you using the latest version of every miner? Is that the plan?
That wasn't the intention, but I think there's something more recent than 118.4. No.
Yeah, I was just wondering. So you got 1.16.9 and then you got 1.17.0. I was just wondering if we wanted to run the latest patch release of each.
I think we could set that then.
That would be ideal. I don't think there's I don't know of a tag in kind for that to say like 117 latest, but ideally we would grab the latest of the series.
Yeah, I chose these because this is what I had in my local test setup.
Fair enough.
That works.
Sure, there's more 117s.
Yeah.
I was just thinking because then it's easy to say yes, we're running on the latest of each miner. So for this, and this is a question that comes up every now and then. So we're testing against 1.16, 1.17, and 1.18. Is the plan for Valero to support the latest 3 versions of Kubernetes?
I think that's up for discussion.
Yeah, this comes up a lot, and I think the latest 3 is probably too few in my estimation. Just because as an enterprise tool, enterprises tend to move kind of slowly. Open source tools, especially Kubernetes on a roughly 3 month. What is it? 3 month or 6?
Yeah,
roughly quarterly.
It's 3, roughly quarterly. Yeah, I'm thinking OpenStack. Even OpenStack on its 6-month release cycle was tough to keep up with. So I'm fairly sure there's a lot of installs still on 115 and earlier. So I think it is, we've historically been cagey on answering this, but it's going to be tougher to continue being cagey here because of some frankly product inclusions on VMware side. So I think it's going to have to be broader than the latest 3, but also we don't want to get too far. Like we don't want it to be super wide because that's just going to make our life really hard.
Yeah.
So I also don't want to give an answer off the cuff because I don't want to box ourselves in too much.
Totally fine. I just wanted to bring it up because I know the question comes up every now and then, and if you have thoughts, not necessarily answers, but thoughts.
Right. I think in terms of CRDs, 116 and above, that's a decent cut line because it makes supporting V1 of the custom resource definition type itself easier. Going below, you have to do the V1 beta 1 version of the custom resource definition type. But that in itself, I think, makes it worthwhile in testing on 115 because we have that split. So that is my thought.
I think it'll also be interesting to know what everybody else is running on this call.
If anyone wants to voice their concern and say, hey, I'm running on 1.11, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we say last 3 versions of Kubernetes, what does that equate to time-wise at this point?
About
3 quarters.
Actually,
less than a year. Yeah. So that's super aggressive. And in an enterprise world, that's
no,
short.
Probably not, right? So 116 was when? 116.9 was a while ago. It wasn't until it is not less than a year ago, is it?
116.9 for a kind was updated 3 months ago. I'm looking at the Docker Hub image right now.
Okay.
But the 1.16.0 release.
16.0. Yeah. That was when 118 was delayed a little bit by 118, according to Docker Hub, was 5 months ago. Because 119 should be pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know things got shifted with coronavirus and things, but because 119 was delayed, but still, the normal cadence is about every 3 months.
But if we try to do anything for longer than look back window longer than a year or so, we will have like a huge support matrix, which I because this is automated, it should be fine. I'm just trying to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, we could also look at different things like having branches that are like long-term support Valero branches, for example. So we say, yeah, we support 1.15, but it's only, Valero, 1.6 or whatever. And you're not going to get the latest Valero features on 1.15, for example. That's another thing to consider.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I think we may end up getting into a position where we will have multiple lines, right? Like a long-term support branch that will get certain features, or won't get certain features, but will get security fixes or something like that.
Hey, Kubernetes itself doesn't have long-term support.
I realize that, but there's yes,
things will change.
Yes, there's discussions around it, and
there have been discussions for going on for a while. So
I know, and just because Kubernetes doesn't have it doesn't mean we can't like try to do stuff.
yeah.
I realize it makes it awkward. I realize it makes it tough. But for a data protection product, the whole idea is you have continuity. So I don't have a great answer for that, but I think it's a good ongoing discussion. Because yeah, like you don't want your data to disappear just because we have that rolling window to make our lives easier.
So,
oh, go ahead.
Hey guys, earlier someone was asking what versions do we support or do people use? I know that we, from migration toolkit at Red Hat, we support all the way back to 1.7. Chances are that it will get pushed up to 1.9 or something, but we use Valero 1.3 and support all the way up to 1.7, I think. So having this long-term support kind of branches would be awesome for our standpoint. I think that would keep things in sanity in order to cherry pick stuff or bring in bug fixes, stuff like that.
That makes sense. Thank you, LA. Anyone else have any comments or thoughts regarding versions and LTS? All right. I think that was the last discussion topic here. So we are ready to dive into the contributor shoutouts. Let me share my screen again. There we go. Got a bunch today. Nolan, do you want to drive this?
Yep, just typing notes.
Sure. Sorry.
So let's see here. So I generated these and I don't know exactly where all of these are, what repos these are in, but let's see here. So first we've got Alex Poonen. Oh yes, this was an update to the Minio-docs that that documented the snapshot location on the Minio documentation to reflect the AWS plugin options. There was some required stuff there that was not reflected in our Minio docs. So thank you, Alex, for clarifying that. Next, we had some logging clarifications from Benoit. This was super useful for making log messages more standard. So Benoit noticed in the issue they filed that not all of his log messages were consistent, and this made them far more consistent. So thank you, Benoit. This next one was from Piper. This was related to some security context changes that came in for the restic-restore helper. There were some earlier changes that allowed for setting privilege escalation on the restic-restore helper. This made some changes that allowed for further tweaking of that for the open policy agent to meet their needs. So thank you to Piper for catching that and bringing in a fix. So this looks like these were created in reverse order, but this is from Rob Rees. This was cleaning up some docs changes that were made. Thank you, Rob, for catching that and changing it. we have one from a familiar face. Steve caught a badge typo on the main README and corrected it. Abby McCarthy here at VMware was extremely patient with us and created some documentation for updating the CPU and memory limits and requests for Restic and the Valero deployment in case you need that. So we've got documentation on how to update the Restic timeout, and she also helped update the Restic documentation overall. So thank you very much, Abby. This is very helpful. Mike Tridabaugh, I hope I'm pronouncing all these names correctly, added a very helpful page to the documentation about how our resource filtering works. So this is an explanation of like all the options that come with Valero Backup Create, and this is explanations that we've needed for a long time, and we finally have. So thank you very much, Mike, for taking the time to go through and document all of these interrelationships. Here's Rob again, and Rob went through and refactored our Docker build process so that our Docker file is now one Docker file instead of spread through several, and we use the Docker build X. I think this is from the Moby or Containerd. I forget exactly which project it comes from, but now we use build X to build our manifest, and it's super neat. The Docker file is much cleaner, and our multi-platform builds on the main repository are much more concise and in one place now, and that is super awesome. And hopefully we can move this over to the rest of the repos for the plugins and such. And then I think we have one or two more. Yes, I think this is on the Azure. Yep. So Sem, Kemp, I'm sorry, I'm not very good with German. So this was a correction of the README on Azure. Looks like we had the wrong variable name in the README, so this just corrected that. Thank you very much for that clarification. And then finally, from Levante, we had some cleanup in the Azure scripted portions, removing some unnecessary indentation. So thank you very much to all of these contributors. Really appreciate that. These all help a lot, and thank you to everyone who's reported issues and things like that too. That these all help make the project better for everybody. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Nolan. Thank you, everyone who has helped out in the past couple of weeks here, making the project even better. Does anyone have any last questions or comments or topics that they want to bring up today? All right, then we're closing it out. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the week, and see you all next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.